I want to come back to something drastically domestic and almost laughable, I would say. I was going to get your thoughts on this first, Jane. The move by the Queensland State Labor government now to add some more public holiday time to the annual calendar. And they're linking it to the changes to penalty rates nationally, and they're saying that to make up for that, they're going to make Christmas Eve now a public holiday, at least from sundown on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, I saw this come through on the front page last night on the Courier Mail, Chris. It's from 6 p.m. On Christmas Eve. I was interested to read further detail. I think that it applies in the Northern Territory, South Australia, a few other places. It will mean, I think, retailers will have to pay workers an extra $120, $150 from memory. So it means that those people who work Christmas Eve will have extra penalty rates, which is terrific if you're working Christmas Eve. But I don't know. I think a lot of people already work Christmas Eve. Those of us in the media certainly work those sorts of holidays. And I think particularly in the retail and hospitality sectors where we're seeing things looking very, very difficult, I don't know that the timing is right because I don't know if the sector can afford it.
Well, they don't care who can afford it. This is typical. You know, it's a state Labor government. They add to public holidays. The state taxpayers will pay for it for public servants, and other people, businesses, will carry the cost around the state. That's the same old pattern. That's how it came in South Australia, a desperate bid to try and get some shopping law reform, and I think the unions traded off and got some extra public holidays that way. Peter, we are the land of the public holiday. We do get good holidays by international standards. 4 weeks annual leave and leave loading, 10 or 11 public holidays. Now we get all sorts of extra leave added on, including for switching gender. You can get special leave now. I mean, when is it going to stop? The unions got nothing better to do than just to ask more businesses to pay more workers for not working.
It's hard to see where this is going to go because, other than adding just yet more public holidays, because, I mean, as Jane said, a lot of people already do work on Christmas Eve. My impression also around living in Sydney, where I do, that from 6 p.m. on Christmas Eve, many people already are taking a public holiday and they're not getting paid for it. I think that it's just going to add to cost, and that's going to saddle the Queensland government and employers with further liabilities and with further debt. We need not, I think, to be giving people more and more public holidays, but really need to be incentivising them to work.
Nicholas, you love all this stuff, and with a few state Labor governments still tricking it all up, I suppose your plan here is to get rid of the whole concept of annual leave, weekends and public holidays and just do it the other way around. Our life is a holiday and you just nominate a couple of days each week when you work.
Oh, Chris, that is ridiculous and you know it. And I've got to say, I am puzzled by your response on this, Chris. I mean, you endlessly attack the left for their war on Christmas, and here you have the Labor government of Queensland protecting the sanctity of Christmas, as they should, and you attack them.
Imagine
if you're biased against the left or something, you just attack the left no matter what they do, even when they do the thing that you've been calling for, and that is the protection of the sanctity of Christmas. They've done this in South Australia, they've done it in Northern Territory, there's a lot of public support for it, and it's a good thing. Don't begrudge those workers in Queensland proper payment if they're working on Christmas Eve, a time when most of us are with their families, and for most employers it'll mean they'll do what they can to give their workers time with their family. It's an all-round good story.
Nicholas, how long do you think this push would last if Anastasia Palaszczuk said she was trying to protect the sanctity of Christmas?
Well, I think she has been saying that. She says that Christmas is a very important time for people with their families.
You know, but you said sanctity. You said sanctity. How long would a Labor Party policy last if it talked about the sanctity of Christmas? Give me a break.
That's exactly what she's saying. She's saying Christmas Eve is just as important as Christmas. It's time with our families, and she wants to make a Christmas officially start now, if you like, from 6 p.m. Good on her, I say.
Yeah, I knew you'd support it. That's great. Yeah, it's good. But who's going to pay?
But well, I'm just trying to work out why you're so down on Christmas all of a sudden. You've been such a strong defender of it in the past. Now you're attacking governments who are trying to protect the sanctity of Christmas.
No, I don't mind working on Christmas. Christmas is a good time to work. What's wrong with that? Who's attacking the sanctity of Christmas? You just want more holidays. You guys just knock yourselves out with holidays.
Well, no. I think Christmas is a very, very important time for Australians.
Why is that?
With their families. And for those people who can't be with their families because they are required to work, and that's the reality of life. They should be properly paid for it for doing so.
They're not properly paid now?
Well, they are on Christmas Day, but not on Christmas Eve, and this will help rectify that situation.
What about before 6 on Christmas Eve? Is that not? There's no sanctity around that? The sanctity kicks in at 6 p.m, does it? And there's a dollar figure on it.
Well, in Northern Territory and South Australia, it's actually 7 p.m. In Queensland, they're talking about 6 p.m. The point being that Christmas Eve is now a time that people spend with their families in the lead up to Christmas. It's a holy, special time in the year.
Holy.
And all they're trying to do...
There you go, Peter.
is declare the holiday in the evening, and so people get properly paid for it. This is a very, very strongly supported measure, Chris. In South Australia and Northern Territory, where it's been introduced, the public in those states welcomed it, and I suspect it's going to happen in other states as well. A good thing.
Nicholas, you mentioned a couple of times there that other Labor governments have brought this in. Must be pleasing to you, Peter, as a Christian, to hear the Labor Party talking about the sanctity of Christmas and calling it a holy time.
Well, look, I've been working, because I'm an ordained minister in the Anglican Church, I've been working Christmas Eve for years, and I haven't been getting penalty rates, so I'm very hopeful if it kicks in Queensland, it may kick in New South Wales as well.
Yeah, but you reckon you'd be getting some brownie points, though?
Perhaps.
Jane, I mean, who's not going to support it? Who's going to whinge about getting... I think it's about extra money, isn't it?
I can tell you who won't support it, and that is the retailers who
Absolutely.
are tough. We've seen those latest figures.
And
but
the
of course
publicans.
the workers would support it. Of course people who are going to get the money would support it. And I would say if times were really flush, then you could look at it. But times are really tough in retail and hospitality. So I can see where Anastasia Palaszczuk is going with it, but I'm in furious agreement with you on this one. Sorry, Nick. I'm agreeing with Chris on this one.
Yeah, well, Nick and I don't care who pays for it. And the point is, too, I'd be interested to hear from viewers. Look, we know you'll find a bad egg somewhere, but in my experience, employers who have people working Christmas Eve appreciate it greatly. And if they're not slugging them extra money, they slug them extra time off or hampers or whatever. And some people... not necessarily Anglican ministers, but a lot of other people who are doing important work, whether it's in the hospitality sector or elsewhere, like to be around at Christmas and share it with people in their workplace. Not everybody hates going to work. I think we've got to remember that, don't we? Some of us actually, going to work... not everyone can have the best job in the world, but there are so many people who do such a vast array of jobs and get enjoyment out of it, as they should, because they're interacting with people.
I think that's right. I mean, you name any number of jobs here in Sydney. I mean, taxi drivers, bus drivers, train drivers.
You just jump in the car and you talk to someone who loves their job.
That's right.
We never focus on that enough, do we? It just occurred to me. There's always this whinging about work and whether you're getting paid enough time off. But I mean, actually, work, enjoying your work, is an absolute blessing, no matter what you're doing.
It's very important.
There you go, work. This is my work. Part of this is my work, and I would have loved to have today off because I was up at the snow with the kids, but I belted back down the freeway, and we've made it here on time.